Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health, and I am back from vacation. I was gone in all over Western Europe. I was in the Netherlands, I was in Belgium, I was in Berlin, Germany, I was in Palma, Mallorca. Hello Javier, thank you for being such a gracious host and for giving me the opportunity to dive into freezing cold Mediterranean water early on a cold Sunday morning. It was a great way to start the new year. And I was in Barcelona, so I got around, I ate a lot of kebab. It was a fantastic trip. I got back and I got a message from a guy named Doug, and Doug has a super interesting story. He has a couple questions for me that I wanted to address because I think it's very useful for everybody. So Doug, he has over 25 years of competitive powerlifting experience. So he is strong, he can lift heavy weights. He says, a couple of years ago, the pain in my right hip became too much. Squatting and deadlifting ceased. I tried several treatments, including massage, chiro, active release, acupuncture, etc. Finally, I saw a doctor and was diagnosed with femoral acetabular impingement, FAI, and 5 months ago had a hip arthroscopy. Interestingly, the doctor who performed my surgery told me that the left hip looks just as bad as the right hip. Meanwhile, I feel zero pain in the left hip. And so after reading your blog, I wonder if surgery was the right thing. The pain has improved slightly since the surgery, but not as much as I expected. My hip feels okay, but if I add any weight during my normal activities, it causes sharp pain. The pain usually doesn't kick in during the activity, but happens later. It was like this before surgery as well. I would squat heavy and feel no pain, but the next day my hip would hurt so much I couldn't walk. So for the past couple months, I've been following some recommendations from the Upright Health YouTube channel. So he's been doing foam rolling, band traction, butt exercises. They all seem to help, but he can't seem to do anything but body weight squats. And if he puts any weight onto his body, it starts to bother him. So he's wondering what he should do. And what I recommended to him was actually to do a ton of the wall pod stretch. A lot of stretching of the adductors, both of which I've covered a bunch of times. And also I told him that he should do something called Barbell Smashing, which is something that my buddy Shane, aka the Mobility Monk, really likes doing, because he is really masochistic, and it really works well. It's something I shared when I was in Palma, Mallorca, at CrossFit Entreno Cruzado. So it is quite helpful. It's basically a really painful self-massage. It's a good way to kind of knock out the tension that builds up in your thighs when you do things like heavy squatting. Somebody like Doug, who's done a ton of squatting, when he lifts heavy, I'm assuming he's lifting well over 300 pounds in his squats. He's putting a lot of stress on the muscles. Those muscles are building up a ton of tension, and they need to be told to relax again. A lot of powerlifters are really good at building up a ton of tension in those muscles and then not at releasing that tension. Over time, that starts to take its toll. So Doug actually responded to me and he said that he's pretty diligent about doing stretching and rehab stuff, but I never really considered doing it twice a day. So Doug, I would suggest you think about doing it even more than twice a day right now. That's something anybody whose hips are not working well, you have to realize that your daily activities are not actually helping your hips work better. Usually we're sitting, or if like Doug, he's squatting and exercising. Those things that we're doing are reinforcing poor patterns, or reinforcing the bad relationships that are already existing between the adductors, the quads, and then the outer hips. Those things are all being reinforced in a bad way unless you are actively encouraging the correct pattern. So I'm going to talk about today the barbell smashing or barbell scrub. This is something that we're going to have included in the FAI fix that Shane and I are working on. So basically with the barbell scrub, this is really convenient for power lifters. It can look a little bit weird, but you know what? If you're lifting 500 pounds off the floor, you already look a little bit weird. So here's the barbell. Basically what you're doing is you're laying it down on top of your glorious thighs, and you are going to use the weight of the barbell, which is 44 to 45 pounds, depending on whether or not you're using kilos or pounds. And I did mean that because I just experienced in Europe that the barbells are 20 kilos, which is actually 44 pounds, not 45 pounds. And then the plates are in kilos too, so nothing makes any sense. Anyway, you take the barbell, you put it down on your quads, you use the weight of the barbell to leverage yourself into a wonderful massage. You're going to start up near the top of your thigh, and you're just going to gradually work your way down. Find those wonderful spots that feel painful. Try to let them relax. You can rock back and forth on those spots. All you need is just really one hand to kind of roll it, scrub it. It's like brushing your teeth. You just kind of move back and forth on it, move down a little bit more. There's a wonderful spot for me. And you just let those muscles relax. You'll know when they relax, right? You can feel your body tense up when the pressure first comes on, and then you breathe and allow the muscle a chance to just sort of, okay, accept the weight and let the barbell sink a little bit deeper. So what that does is it again helps reduce the tension in the muscle, helps that muscle learn to relax again. If you are squatting heavy, you're probably really good at generating that tension, but you need to remind those muscles to relax a lot after the fact. So just as a personal anecdote, one thing that I want to share is when I have been doing deadlifting, I'm gradually building up my ability to powerlift better. And when I'm deadlifting, I have found that I need to do a lot of stretching and tissue work to make sure that my hamstrings don't get crazy on me and then make my hip hurt. That's a far cry from years ago when I couldn't even, sitting like this and having my knee like this was just not possible. It was very uncomfortable. And bending over to tie my shoelaces was impossible. For me now, I see my hamstrings being dysfunctional in the sense that when they get really tight, when I use them to deadlift, they don't learn to relax, and then they tighten up my hip, the hip joint, and then the hip joint feels bad, and then my back feels bad. So, somebody who's lifting weight, if you're a weightlifter, if you're a power lifter, then you need to make sure, if you're a weightlifter, if you're an Olympic weightlifter, you probably already know how important it is to be mobile. If you're a power lifter, you also need to make sure that you are maintaining mobility and muscle health so that you don't suddenly find yourself locked up by muscles that no longer function correctly. So the barbell scrub, super good way to do it. It's super handy. If you don't have a foam roller or you want to get more aggressive, you just use the barbell and just scrub on down there, get on down. Obviously, don't crush your kneecap. And just, if you want to, you can also come onto the lateral part of the quads here. You want to mess around like this, you can do it that way. You can also get the lateral quad like that, just supporting that knee so that you don't bust the medial aspect of your knee. The medial collateral ligament is probably not going to be happy if you put stress directly on it like this. So I just have my foot supporting underneath to make sure that doesn't get hurt. So Doug, thank you very much for reaching out. I hope that some of these ideas help you. When you are trying to deal with dysfunctional hips, remember that you have to be very diligent about it. I used to spend tons and tons and tons of time stretching and stretching and stretching every day. I still stretch throughout the day to make sure my body learns to keep my hips moving well. If I sit for a long period of time, I know my hips are learning the wrong movement pattern, so I need to remind them how to move better, and I do that with different stretching and tissue work things, however often I need to. So if that's you, if you've got some issues with your hips, remember that it is possible to make progress. You just have to be very diligent and persistent about it. So please remember that. If this sounds like something that might help you, go ahead and give it a try. And please remember, that pain sucks. Life shouldn't. And happy 2015.